everybody, welcome back to another episode of OffCentered Outdoors. I'm Matt Dockstetter here again with my partner in crime.
My no shoes wearing, animal stuffing, midget moron from Ojai, Chuck Testa.
The one and only.
And we have, as promised, we have company today.
Yep.
Famous guy.
Jeff.
No, well, he's famous.
He's infamous.
Infamous, but no, we have a really good friend of ours, Rick Krane here, out from New Hampshire with his wife Kathleen, and we call him the New Hampshire Flash. I don't know, for those of you who don't know Rick Krane, he has Anglers Artistry. He's got a world titles. I don't know how many.
Well, we judge a lot of shows and teach a lot of people how to become national and world champions, and
right.
Yeah, we just buzz around the country and do a bunch of work, and we have a school, and we even talk to Jeff once in a while.
Yeah, my apologies. So anyway, you're out here for another mad dash, and
yes.
Then you got sucked into Jeff's world, right?
Like the vortex.
Yeah. It is. It's bad, huh?
It's scary if you don't have your shots. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
You know, he puts a muzzle on me every now and then. Shuts me up.
Just so good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. It's good to be back.
Excited to have you back, and we're going down to my old burger joint. You know, where I got the nickname the $5 hamburger flipper. I cut that out of my intro to shorten it up.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have some lunch, and we're gonna screw around, and
they're gonna take your taxidermy title away. I mean, last time I was here, you had a bunch of work, and now you don't have a bunch of work. You mean you actually do taxidermy and turn around and give it to the customers?
Sadly.
Allegedly.
Wow, allegedly.
We were so, see, they think we're probably lying. We got so good, we had to go like hang a shingle. We were walking the streets of Ventura, you know.
Yeah, had bust
we'll work for food, you know. And in fact, one of my customers, you know how small world it is. So this guy we just did this buffalo for, ran into another one of my clients. I don't know, they were just bullshitting out of nowhere, and then he goes, "You hunt?" "Yeah, I hunt." Blah blah blah. "Oh, you know?" And then he goes, "Yeah, I just had a buffalo." "Oh, by Chuck?" He goes, "Yeah, I just picked it up." He goes, "Well, when did you bring it in? Like in March?" "What?"
Yeah.
You know? I go, "Well, sorry to disappoint him, you know." But yeah, we actually run about 7 months turnaround pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I call organized chaos. I mean, it's a functional working shop, and you know, I don't know what the deal is with a lot of the shops that I visit around the country. It's like when I'm judging shows, I can go to a shop from one year to the next, and a lot of times the folks that run the shop have the same pieces on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not turning them out, but every time I come here, it's full, then it's empty, then it's full, then it's empty.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to start what we call another run. A couple of runs. We just got
as soon as the big brown truck shows up.
Yep. Matt trudged up to the tannery last week, I think it was, and picked up our capes, and that's, you know, all the way back from October and September.
Wow.
way back then.
Way back when.
How is that affecting the business today? How does that affect your world in taxidermy with post-COVID hysteria, and with the tanneries being so backed up and far behind? Because we've lost a few tanneries, haven't we?
Yeah, a couple big ones.
Yeah, a couple. But our tannery, thank God, I don't know. We claim it's because we pay them the day they call us.
Like you pay the tannery?
Imagine that.
Well, they give you your stuff too?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
We pay before we even see it.
Yeah.
That's how bad we are. Because we got, like you said, we not only organized, but we got where we spend our deposits, what they're for. We say, you know.
You have a business system for taxidermy? How about that?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
I have a business system, Rick.
Wow.
It's probably similar to yours that you talk about every time.
Could you share that with our listeners?
Well, we will, but let's first talk a little bit about your first question.
Oh, yeah.
So, COVID. But worse than, COVID, guys were hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And money was a little bit of funny money was going around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's all catching up with everybody. We've had to raise our prices pretty.
As you do.
As we do, you know, pretty.
Sure.
good, and it's shocking a lot of the clients, you know. And for some reason, again, like we've talked about it probably every time, they don't value our. I don't know why taxidermy is not valued the same as, like, you go to an auto mechanic and their shop time is $125 an hour. You go to a lawyer and it's $400 an hour. You know,
Well, people don't even question that.
How about if you want to get your lawn mowed? It's $100 an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
See, you got a backup plan at least.
next time you come, I'll have a 84 Toyota pickup with trash barrels and brakes and shit.
How are you gonna put me to work?
Yeah. No, so no, that part's, you know.
Well, I was talking to one of the
Scary.
tannery owners that's from the Midwest, and you know, he said, "Hey, Rick, you know, here's the thing, right? We'll hire 50 people, we'll train them, and in 6 months you're left with 4, and out of the 4, you may be left up with 1 or 2,
If you're
lucky.
if any, I would.
And the
say.
reality is that I guess you can go work at the car wash today for $18 an hour, or you could put some bull work in and do some tanning work. And I think folks are not looking for careers anymore, but the path of least resistance.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're saying. Yeah, and out here, the minimum wage is going to be $25 an hour for McDonald's and everything. Yeah, $25 an hour. So you can walk in off the street like Jeff with no skills, no experience.
Wow.
No brain, no nothing, and and $25 to start. Can you freaking believe it?
I mean, I'm no economist, but you know, looking back at the history of this country, you've had 2 times that you can really go up in your prices, and once was between 77 and 79. You know, gas lines and food lines and everything else. That was the big economic pop, right?
Yeah,
And then
these guys don't remember the gas.
yeah, but we
Yeah,
do.
I do.
We do.
Oh,
We're
Oh,
old.
I do.
Oh.
Odd and even days. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
remember waiting 2 hours for gas one time with my mom.
But then you look at the way that they're driving inflation with the economy, labor, parts, material. We, as taxidermists, people aren't doing the algorithms. They're not doing the business models to look at what their projected costs are going to be.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's shops that take in work. They're not going to turn it out for 2 years or longer in some cases. Some of them could be out of business and they don't even know it yet.
No,
Yeah.
no. I'd say most, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people they're stuck in their ways, and it doesn't help any. This is an afterthought business. I mean, it's not. How many of your customers go out? I'm going to go catch a fish and take it to Rick, and 90% of those guys. Look what I did.
Sure. You know, it's always been a thing though with folks in our industry. It's like taxidermists at some level are collectors, and it's almost like they want to collect customers. and I want to have the most work. I want to have the most amount of stuff, but you know, your freezer being a frozen bank account doesn't make you any money. There's no interest in there. As a matter of fact, you're losing money in that freezer. And I think what's always been, I don't know, interesting to me is that rather than charging more money with fixed costs and making more money, they charge, the middle of the road price, hoping that they get as many customers as they can, but not looking at the fact that they're going to overwhelm themselves with work. They'll burn out, and they won't be able to do their work. So I mean, look, we're all part of the family and the brethren and the sisterin and whatever the politically correct term is these days. I'm not up on that yet, but
The tribe.
Well, my pronouns are brilliant and handsome. That's my pronouns.
my pronouns is I know Chuck. People ask, I know Chuck, that's all.
Sorry.
Well, my pronoun's still an amateur, so I don't have no pronoun at all.
Don't even ask me what your pronouns are.
Oh, you've got a long list of them.
Dumb and Dumber comes. No, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Chumley,
I'm-
just
and-
endless supply.
I don't want to. We're gonna segue, so let's let Rick finish.
Well, just looking at the fact that you're in California here, and not just in California, but you're in the Ojai Valley.
Yeah.
And you have all sorts of different cultural experiences here. We were driving around coming here, and you're looking at artsy things and nice things and stuff like that, and all sorts of different walks of life here. So, you know, as somebody that teaches this to people, I try to explain to them that sometimes geography does play a part in what you're going to do. But your model, just again, going back to the work coming in, the work coming out. So obviously you're doing your work. So it's not, you know, the customer that's holding you up because you're turning your work around. So what do you say to somebody like one of my students that wants to get into this business? You know, if they came here and understood where you are and you're still doing the business that you're doing, what's the secret to that?
It's not a secret. It's a foundation, a solid foundation, and then a system.
Yeah, systems.
But first you need without a foundation, you know, you're spinning your, I mean, like we talk about it in private, and
Sure.
But without a foundation, you'll never get to the steps 1 through 25 on a deer, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the most, you know, you can't, see, that's not glamorous and that's not sexy, as you would say, and that's not, you know, the glory of, well, normally there's, like if you look back at the last few months of podcasts,
Chuck, shame on you for doing so much work in here. I mean,
no, but there was a bunch of elk heads the other day, and then there was sheep heads, and then there was whatever, and now there's rocks. But But the other podcast 2-3 days ago, those rocks weren't rocks; they were pieces of wood.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know?
I thought about when I was coming out here, you know, something unique or interesting that we can talk about, and I started thinking about a different version of the elephant in the room. And it's something that taxidermists don't talk about, like hardly ever. We all get the customer that brings you the work, and they're all excited, and they give you the deposit. And then it comes to be the time where you call them and say, hey, look, I'm 30 days out on your piece. We're going to have it done. We're meeting the time that we've, you know, agreed, that we've committed to. And then they turn around and say, well, right now, or I don't have the money, or it's Christmas, and not that it's not Christmas for you, or it's always Christmas. You know, July, it's Christmas.
It's always tax time.
So the elephant in the room is that how do you educate that customer into being a good customer for you? Where your customers, because I've been here when you've had customers come in here, they take out their check or they pay you the money, they pay you the cash. It almost seems like you've educated them into how the process of your business works. So when you get a customer that comes in and it's not understanding how business is done, what do you do with that?
I fire them.
That's not a joke.
Or they
No, I know it's not a joke. I fired customers.
I said, or they end up at my shop.
Yeah, or they end up at No. We just had one the other day. We went through this where a guy said, what makes you think I would pay X amount for X?
After the work is done.
After the work is done.
Yeah.
And I told the guy the whole spiel twice. And like,
people, a lot of times they don't listen. They're just,
I guess
here's my thing. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Sure.
Give me it back when it's done. And they don't ask the important questions, and sometimes we don't remember to tell the important answers when they're not being asked.
Yeah, but this was a client 20
that was
years
a long,
you know?
that was a long time.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues you run into when you do good guy deals here and there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Eventually the good guy deal dries up.
So they test the water to see how deep that well is.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and then a lot of my customers have never, and Matt's have never gone to other shops.
Sure.
And they don't even know that they're spoiled.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like they think that this is, and then a couple of them now that, especially on the Euros, I said, well, dude, we've been taking care of you guys.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, that was like or like the flat tan on the back hide. We don't mark it up what we should because we're doing their head.
Sure.
You know, because we just throw it in the box, blah, blah, blah. And it's, you know, and now they're starting to understand that, like you said, it dries up, like Matt said. And then sometimes they disrespect me so much that I just fire them.
Yeah, whether they mean to or not.
They don't. And that's what's the interesting thing, because I talked to Fraser about this quite a bit. Like, when these people say a lot of the stuff we hear, do they realize, like, they're really insulted? I mean, you know, and he says, no, they don't think, you know, they don't know what, it's like Jesus said, forgive them because they don't know what the hell they're doing, you know?
But we're kind of like the last stop on the train station, you know, we're the last station on the railway, and, you know, you'll research your guide, and you'll research your outfitter, and you'll research your gun, and you'll research your ammo, and you'll research whatever that goes along with the experience of what you're trying to hunt for or fish for or whatever. And then when it comes to your taxidermist, they'll try to save $20.
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Crazy.
It doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. That's why a couple of the famouser hunters aren't in here anymore, because they can talk some poor schlup into having to honor a mountain their number or whatever sheep it was. And
I don't know what he'll think about this, but Dwayne Dewey was just up, and Dwayne is just considered in the industry one of the best taxidermists, period.
Yeah, sheep guy. Yeah. I know Dwayne. He's a good guy. Great guy. And we were up in the mountains. We were just having taxidermy conversations, as we would call the private conversations. Yeah. And he said, you ever have anybody bring in, you know, like a record piece or a world record piece? And he says, do they ever just expect you to do it for free? So we had that conversation, you know. The honor.
This will make you famous, right? If you get any more famous, right? Right, exactly. If you get any more famous, right, you couldn't...
Whatever.
Don't you know who I think I am?
Yeah, don't you know? I'm a legend in my mind. That's where the term fig jam came from in Australia. Fuck, I'm great, just ask me. Fig jam. Now we've blown the secret out. When we call guys fig jams, now we're in trouble.
That'll be the new code word. Fig jam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been Matt and I and Rudy's and Jeff for quite a while.
But doesn't that speak to the whole narcissistic ego part sometimes of the sportsman? I mean, we have it too. You know, we're playing with dead animals. We take God's creation and we try to replicate and do the best we can. And, you know, I've thought about this long and hard after 40 years. Why do we actually put taxidermy in our house? Why do we actually put it there? Because we love nature so much. We love the whole memory of the experience of being outside.
Exactly.
But yet you go to somebody who hangs a shingle on their door, who has a phone number, they're listed in Google. Yeah. And yet somebody thinks that you are not as business-like or professional as anybody else. And it's just something that we have to collectively as an industry try to overcome. But how do you overcome something in an industry that has no standard?
Yeah, that's really sad. And then a couple other things too. I just had a point. Some of my people, they go somewhere else because then you're not the new hot setup. Yeah. You're not the guy. You're not the, you know, whatever. And then usually what happens is those guys that come back are some of my educated guys too. Sure. You know, and they really appreciate you more.
Absolutely.
And now we've built up, and Matt's really starting, like he's where I was, you know, when I was 40.
Sure.
And he's starting to pile up a bunch of guys that appreciate and want his work.
Yeah.
And then that helps you get enough self-esteem,
right,
to not have to put up with it. But then what a lot of happens is you need the money because you didn't have a sound business foundation,
right,
where you have to pay your mortgage, so you eat crap, tons of,
right,
like on Thin Red Lines, they ate buckets of shit. You have no idea, right? Sure. And
you can burn it too to stay warm.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
well, that too. But
right.
Why didn't you do that at the trailer?
All he would have to do is call me.
I think Kathy was considering running me, but
yeah. But anyway, no. So we say it all the time. Now here's another good example too, which is hard for them to get around. Is like we buy in bulk, because you were talking about. So a case of, for example, that stuff I use for the rocks, it doesn't eat. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. And so we had to go through a transition when I wasn't doing good business and just sweat it out till I turned it around.
Sure.
And now we buy bulk everything, you know.
Sure.
And a lot of ways we got through the bad time in COVID is we ordered ahead, mannequins,
Eyes
eyes
was the big one.
eyes, yeah, and a bunch of stuff, you know, and we didn't really want to tell anyone, or well, we could tell because they weren't going to do it anyway.
No, well, you can't when you don't have any money. You already spent the deposit. So how are you going to buy supplies?
So that's another reason we never slowed down during the COVID. In fact, we went up and got,
Because you were able to work.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
we were able to work,
Right.
and then we went and bailed another guy out, and then you bailed another guy out,
Yep.
and you know, caught a couple of other guys up, and now we're still, you know, we might have time still this year to go work for some other guy who's 3 years behind.
Isn't that something?
But well, let's talk about, remember what you were saying on the phone about the, like how many firemen do you know that committed suicide? Or
Yeah, that's that dirty little part of our industry that if you're in it long enough, it comes up in conversation at shows, or if you get together with, you know, taxidermists that you've known for a long time. And, you know, I can't remember the first year that the conversation came up with me, and there was a taxidermist, he was a bird taxidermist from Maine named Mike Cusack, and he used to have an ad in Joe Kish's Taxidermy Review, and he was a pretty good taxidermist, and he was the first taxidermist that I knew that actually took his life. And then after that, you start talking to other people, and they knew people. And then over the years, you start knowing more people. And not that it's any number that you want to capture or any number that you want to even store in your head, because it's such a sad thing and it's such a tragedy. But I know 11 people, or I knew 11 people, I should say,
Wow.
that have done that. And Richard Cristoforo, he's a gentleman that got me into taxidermy when I was 15 years old, and Richard knows like 15. That's a big number if you think about
absolutely.
it. You know, it's just a big, big number. You know, I think for a lot of people, and this is, I'm going to quote Richard because it's not my quote, it's his quote. But he said, there's only two ways out of this business. You unplug the freezer, okay, and you take off and change your name and move to another town like you're in a witness protection program.
which a lot of them actually do.
Yeah.
Oh, for a fact. Oh, for a fact. You know, but some people, they end up throwing a rope over the rafter, you know, and what they don't realize is there's an answer to the solution. You know, there's an answer to the question. It's communication. You got to call your customer, say, here's where I'm at. This is what's going on. You know, we've hit this. You can take me to court, or you can do this or whatever, but there has to be a conversation involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make this transparent so we understand where each other stands.
Yeah, and our exposure was we were delivering a crocodile rug, and the guy says this taxidermy must be the most stressful. He says, is it stressful? And I says, well, why? He says, well, my first two taxidermists killed themselves.
Wow.
And then my third one, had a heart attack or something?
Yeah.
And he goes, and I'm questioning the way you're at, you know.
Well, you know, it's kind of an unspoken thing in our industry, and I think it starts with the period of time, perhaps, when you start or how you get into it. Look, I've been judging since '89, and at the Nationals this year, I announced that I'm going to retire from judging after all these years of doing
Really?
it. Yeah, yeah. I've had some. I'm old now, right? So I've had some health things. I've looked at what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. But for the folks that get into it today, they go to the competitions, and they're a great thing. You know, you meet people, you make friends for life, you go to seminars and you learn things. But I think the overall opinion has always been that taxidermy shows are for you to share information and to gather information so you can go back and make money. But a lot of people look at it as a sporting event. They've won something. They're going to win something.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all the years that I competed, I never talk about what I win or what I've won or what I've done. I'm terribly, terribly proud of my students that have gone on to win a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, I know that feeling.
And that's great. I mean, it's a wonderful feeling because you're handing down that legacy piece. But I think when people get into this, they think it's all about quality. But the reality is, when you have an industry that has no standard, what does quality mean?
Yeah.
See, the secret that you and I, and we all know in this room, if you've been doing it for any period of time, and this is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to say, especially if you have a customer in the room, A customer wouldn't know quality if it bit them in the ass.
100%.
They wouldn't know. They only know what you teach them. That's all they know. And if you do your work in a timely fashion, then you've taught them that you're a serious business person and you honor your commitments. If you point out the little extra things that you've done or your creativity or how you came up with the design, they take that information and they look at perhaps work that they have, or they go to a buddy's house or a party or something like that, and they go, "Oh, your person isn't doing this, or your taxidermist said, what? Why?"
Yeah.
And that's the issue. But it goes back to that subject that we were talking about, and you can just ravel it all into place. When a person starts in this industry, you get rid of all your hunting and fishing magazines or whatever it is that people do. You lose your friends, you lose your relatives because they want everything for free.
Oh, yeah.
You need the practice,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, sure. And then eventually somebody says, well, you're new, so you shouldn't charge what somebody else is charging. But don't we all pay the same price for the same materials?
Exactly.
Right? And again, at the end of the day, if you took somebody that was in the pest control business or somebody that was in the lawn care business and they were a serial entrepreneur and they just wanted to start a new business and they got into taxidermy, you think they'd charge less? No, they would use a business model to market. They would use a business model to assure new customers and new rollover of stuff. It's quite an interesting industry, but I think in the end, that's why a lot of people take that one big heavy step that they shouldn't, is that they don't see a way out. They don't see that they missed the point because no one ever talked to them about the business part of it.
Yeah.
Then you're trapped, right? You're stuck in that box. But
yeah, and then for earlier this week, we were working around here, and Dave, one of my guys, he was here last time.
Yeah, from
so he
Indiana.
opened his school.
Yeah. Okay.
And he had a student there, and he wanted to enter, it's part of the sales pitch. I don't know what it is, right? But they call him,
You too will be an award-winning taxidermist.
And so they called me up, and I'm talking to the guy, and he goes, there's way more to this. And then somehow came around, he asked me, what do we charge? And I said, it's $1,100. And he's like, I'm like, well, what do you, he goes, well, 500 to 700. And I'm like, okay, so at 500, you're paying $250 out of your own pocket to break, you know what I mean?
Sure, and labor's not free.
At 700, you're $50 in the hole, but there's no money. I mean, you haven't made anything.
Yeah.
You're paying them to mount
Yep.
their stuff.
Sure.
And he just says, well, they won't pay it. Then I go, well, maybe you shouldn't do, what I mean?
I can't get that in my area?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember what I told you when you told me, okay, first session or first workshop I did with him, we're on our way to the airport, and he goes, okay, don't forget to hit the ground running. Make sure you're consistent in it. But the main thing is go home and charge 60 an inch. I go, dude, I'm charging 19 an inch. I'll never get that
Sure, I didn't say
around
60,
here.
but but it was a good number.
Yeah, it was more than what I was even
There's a
thinking.
pushback point at every point in every business, whatever it may be. But the reality is that a person who's a professional in whatever business they're in, if you own a mechanic shop or you own a restaurant, you're not going to give your hamburgers away. You're not going to give the tires away. You're not going to, you're not going to give the soft drinks away. You can have specials from time to time. Buy one, get one free, or everybody gets a free drink before noontime on Tuesday, or whatever the deal is. But the reality comes down to the simple fact that Walmart doesn't charge any less in my town for a 55-inch TV than they do in your town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then all supplies are the same.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of them are ordering from the brand, so they're paying premium.
Sure.
Sure.
And then they're not ordering enough. They're only ordering a small amount of what they
ordering
need.
per
And
application.
then they complain about the shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we order however many. Well, we don't even have to.
Yeah.
Our orders are boxes are full anyway.
Typically, I don't buy deer mannequins from them, but I had to buy a couple the other day, and they just came in, and for 2 deer mannequins, it was almost $200 in shipping.
Wow.
Yeah, and we get 3 giant big boxes from Research full of stuff for just over $200.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't know what their deal is.
So geography plays a game in it?
Somewhat, yeah, for sure. But I mean, people are saying the same thing everywhere throughout the country on shipping prices. And shipping is shipping. It's always going to be stupid. But
as bitter as that may be, and as stinging, of a sensation that they get that sticker shock when you get your shipping bill.
Yeah.
A business person is going to pass it on to their customer.
Well, that's it. And they don't even count the shipping, Rick.
No.
They get a price out of the catalog, and okay, it's going to be $70 for a mannequin.
Well, 70 plus, right? The shipping,
plus $100 for shipping.
Yeah,
sure.
More than shipping is more than a mannequin from some places.
Oh yeah.
I was at a couple shows this year, and I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he works for one of the big supply companies, and he's a former world champion. Well, I guess you're always a world champion whitetail guy if you're a whitetail guy, but. He explained to me that when there was this big eye shortage, and I guess there's still somewhat of an eye shortage.
Terrible. Yeah, it's just really
that every time somebody called, they let them know. Mm-hmm. Buy a little extra. Not that we're trying to upsell you, but buy a little extra because we are running out right now. Yeah. We're not making more of them right now. We're running out. So he had a bunch of eyes on a table at one of the shows, and I was sitting with him in his booth for a few minutes. People kept coming over and picking up the eyes, and they'd put them back down. And I'd say, well, what's the deal? If there's a shortage, how come they're not buying everything? Because they're either not the competition eye that they're looking for, or they don't have the money to buy them. Mm-hmm. So how crazy is that? You can't even afford to be in business sometimes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we buy card sheets of ice,
Yeah,
sure. And then Mark, here again, this is another thing. So with Research, which we're pretty, of course, and we don't get paid by Research or anything like that.
I wish.
Stupid rumors are,
but they're only up in Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty.
Well,
close.
no, they have one in Illinois.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And South Carolina.
Most of their whitetail stuff comes out of Illinois.
Yeah.
So they have satellite places as well now. Okay, that's good business.
But so we always order, and then now all of a sudden the eye shortage. So guys that don't order, they're calling up wanting 50 pairs of eyes or, and all this stuff. And then Mark's saying, listen, I'll give you 5 or whatever, 10 sometimes. But no, I said, we got guys that buy all the time. You never even bought one mannequin from us. And not that we don't, not that we could pick it, but, no,
sure.
We got guys call up and order, like us, order 5 cards of eyes and 20 sheets.
So you're anticipating your workload. You're anticipating what's going to happen.
Well, if you know your average, you do 100 deer heads, why aren't you buying 100 pairs of eyes?
Well, that's such a great point because there's this whole term in business called projection, right? Projection of cost. And if you're not looking at the fact that you're going to have deer to mount 2 years from now, and just the way that the economy is going, the price of everything, shipping, whatever it is, it keeps ticking up. And, Kathy, she takes care of all the number crunching and all that stuff, and we work with our bookkeepers and CPAs. And if you're not looking down the road, you could buy a mannequin today at X dollars, and then 2 years from now, if it's up 30%, where do you make that money up? Because you can't go back to your customer and say, hey, I got charged more money, so I don't have to charge you more money.
Yeah.
No, you have to, especially right now in this just terrible, I know it's not terrible. Somebody said the other night on the news, the economy's great. Okay, and they put the crack pipe down and stepped away from the television.
Oh, I'm going to say, are they from Maine eating the moose?
No, they were from California, actually. So,
don't even. Please don't start.
No, I was putting the start button, but we're good.
A mental illness going on here.
But the reality is that if you're not trying to project right now in a volatile economy, you could hurt yourself big time down the road.
Yeah. No, and then we had to race twice in like a year or something period, quite significantly. So we got our eyes and we got our this and we got half dozen kits of everything that we could get, case of Bondo. And then people ran out of Bondo and we still had Bondo because we buy it in a case and blah blah blah. And So the guy I get it from, as long as I buy it in a case, I can get it in the case. And then I get a little bit better price because he's nice to me. But, you know.
And you're going to use it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. And it
It's a
doesn't
staple
eat,
item,
and
right?
it doesn't, you know, inconvenience me.
Sure.
And I don't have to talk to it or nothing. And you know.
Doesn't mean we don't, but.
So then, yeah.
Especially if you use enough of it that day, right?
Well, but the point is that we did so that we wouldn't, because we know we're still going to have, you know what I mean, that everything's still going to go. And we didn't want to we can't raise our price like every 6 months.
Sure.
I mean, you should, but you can't. And
But if you did it, it'd be almost like you're not paying attention to your business or your industry. You're not paying attention to projection. And that's the thing. If you come at the beginning of the year, whenever your fiscal year is, or whenever you start setting your prices, and you say, listen, I don't want to have 3 price increases in a year, so we have to do this now. We have to make the price increase now in projection for what it's going to be.
yeah, that's what we didn't use that fancy word because, you know, I was most likely to end up in prison, class of 74. And I don't know what Matt's deal was at his high school.
Yeah,
But,
I don't either, don't worry.
yeah, no, he doesn't either. But, so whatever you want to call it, you know, call it whatever you want.
Sure.
But we have to start thinking of, and sometimes poor Matty just like, you know, here we go again, chucking the
Oh, no,
whatever, you know. I get stuck on I go off the rails sometimes on what's going on in the, you know.
Yep.
Because people don't want to pay attention and they don't want to know. But I always
But you
tell
have
them,
to, though.
absolutely.
it's always better to know what's coming. That's all I'm
Well,
saying. You know.
preparation, right?
You know.
I mean, even the motto of the Boy Scouts is be prepared, right? You got to get out there and prepare for things. And you talk about systems, and when I'm teaching and we have students there, I always try to tell them that preparation, process, and procedure. You can have the best plan in the world, but as Dwight Eisenhower said, if you don't execute it, then it's just a great plan on paper, right? I mean, that's all it is. So when you execute the plan like anything else, you're going to find what really works and what can be improved. And then you just keep fine-tuning it until you have a roaring system down where it's just good to go.
Yeah.
And I think, sadly, part of the like you were saying about the competitions, these guys are always you know, because they don't have a foundation or a system, and they're chasing whatever you know what I mean, and they're, and then they don't have because they don't have a system foundation too. They jump around on their manic, you know what I mean, and they use 6 different. Sometimes we have to use what we have to use, depending on what we're doing.
Sure.
But we also have our ways. We swap out a lot of heads.
Absolutely.
And we're just using the back part for a foundation, you know, to build it on. But if you jump around on your mannequins, then your work isn't even consistent. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Well, consistency, I think, at least in my experience, is far more important than the quality piece of it. You know, look, what we do is a visual thing. It hangs on the wall or on a table or on a floor, wherever it is, and people are going to look at it. And what are they looking for? Whatever their experience is. So if little Johnny or Mary goes catch a crappie or something when they're 4 years old, they're going to see something, right? But if you take a guide that's been guiding for 40 years, they may see something different. So you have to put that fish together for both of them.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you have to do. Then you win, right? That's the consistency piece of it. Everybody has little signatures to their work, but if you're capturing the signatures of nature and you're trying to do that, then it enhances the whole visual piece of it. And I'll tell you, and this is controversial, and I know people don't like it when I talk about it, but you have this scenario where people for 6 months or 4 months or a year or whatever it is, they try to do one really great piece. And yet that's not what they're doing for their customers.
Yeah.
So how do you practice bad habits just to do one good piece once in a while? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I wish, in a way, and this is the terrible controversial part of it, I wish the judges like myself didn't have to get on top of it, didn't have to touch it, didn't have to look at it, but we actually stand back about 5 feet and we kind of look at it and go, heck, I'd put that in my house. You know, that's a nice looking piece.
it used to be, remember what Joe, I mean, the Masters, you had to get invited to be in.
Sure, at one time.
At one time.
Yep.
And man, well, I mean, or you'd send a picture of the mount already done,
Sure.
and they'd say it's going in or it isn't going in.
Sure.
And you had to make your own I mean, you had to prove you were a master. Now it's 3 ribbons and 25 points or whatever it is.
It's not even that anymore. I mean, it's just I won something once and now I'm here. Mm-hmm. And as a judge, I can say this. I mean, there's shows that I go to now that are people that are in, quote unquote, the Masters division that are making what I call professional or even in some cases amateur mistakes. You know, my little rhythm to it all is if you're an amateur, I'm only going to point out 3 things to you. That's it. Just 3 things. Foundation stuff, right? In the professional division, you're demonstrating your skills. You're showing me I can set an eye. You're showing me that you're not putting fingerprints in your epoxy work or whatever, just basic stuff.
Dragging your beard through your paint.
Dragging the beard through the paint.
Or having dog hair stick to your paint job.
Yes, all the above.
Yep.
But in the Masters division, it's my reasonable expectation that you've achieved your foundation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And now you're demonstrating your deep knowledge of that particular thing that you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not any hard. You know, it's funny. People think that the Masters division is a harder division to be in, a harder division to judge. No, actually, it's easier because there's not a lot of simple or bush league mistakes. They should be pretty straightforward. And
very consistent.
As a judge, you don't have to beat somebody up and send the wrong message. You can reward somebody for doing a great job. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think sometimes a lot of the folks today that get into it, no one has explained that to them anymore because there's no mentorship, there's no apprenticeship. And, you know, when I had to do it, you had to do the apprentice part. You had to do 2 shows with 2 different judges, so 4 shows, and then they had to watch you, okay, to make sure that you could do it. And then they wrote a letter saying, well, you know, he's ready, he's not ready, or whatever the deal is. And then it was still like a hazing almost. It was for about 2 or 3 years. I hope you're being consistent. I hope you're doing a good job. It's almost like they had to reiterate that you haven't arrived yet. You've just started. Okay, so take it easy.
Yeah. But now, and this will be controversial, but guy will win a title. No offense, a world title. Then they'll ask him to judge, and he comes off that high, and he's just pounding the people in the you know what I mean? Because there's no one.
Or the other thing happens. They'll call you on the phone because they know you, and they'll say, "Hey, I've never seen this before, or I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to write here." And as a joke, I may say, "Well, didn't you just win a world title?" You know, but I know where they are because there's some part of the industry that thinks that because you've won that, you're supposed to know everything. Yeah, we're always learning. We're like a work in progress all the time.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But those guys have made it into the master with no foundation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Then, for example, Matt, a solid foundation and a system. And now, if he wants to go and do something and then tweak the little things you need to do to play the game.
Sure.
But we give them the same job that we would just go hang on the wall in the professional.
Right, exactly.
division.
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of goes back to what you told me when you took me to my first competition. This originally was you take a commercial piece off your wall and you went and competed and showed your skills.
And then the judge would hopefully point out a few things, and you start from there. You know what I mean? And now it's got all, and then this art part too. That makes me want to put my head through the wall because you said it best: nature, outside. The art is recreating the nature to where it looks.
Art is in the lines. It's in the movement. It's in the lines. Yeah. You know, if you squint your eyes and you look at a black and white picture of a largemouth bass, and then you look at a black and white picture of a smallmouth, even though there's no color there and you're not really looking at it, you know which one's which because the lines tell you what everything is. You know, Jeff makes a good point with, you know, in the beginning when you're first starting is people forget, I think, that have been doing this for a long time that I'll give you a better example of it in where I'm going with this. So people will say to me sometimes, "What's Chuck really like?" Because they know that I know you.
Oh,
you know?
no way.
And I go, I says, you know, he's Chuck, right? He's a business guy. He does this, he does that, he does that. And well, is he really good at what he does? I said, listen, If you went to work with him for 2 weeks, you'd be so exhausted, okay? Because his reasonable expectation is you're going to come in and work every day.
Absolutely.
Okay? And it's not going to be this, well, the mood doesn't strike me and the wind's blowing the wrong way and the trees aren't facing the right. No, it's none of that stuff. It's here's your foundation, here's your fundamentals. You're either one of the players or one of the fans, right? That's it. And you can always look at somebody's blue ribbons, and I know more world champions that have gone out of business quicker than anything. You know, at the end of the day, if you want to play in the sandbox, you got to make enough money to stay in the sandbox, right? That's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then because whatever, and you know, Matt's starting to really see this a little bit, because I told him after a while he'll know 200 more things every day that are roadblocks and this and that, and then pretty soon, how can you forget? I forget more than a lot of people, and they think that's arrogant, but it's not.
It's not.
You know, I forget.
You have troubleshot so much in your career. There's no way to instantly keep it at the forefront of your brain to recall it all instantly. However, if you came into my shop, even though you don't even know what I'm working on, right? And I'm sitting there and I say, how would you do this? Something would come out of your mouth because your experience is such that you troubleshot so many times in your lifetime, okay, that your hands and your brain are already geared to troubleshoot it. That's what it's going to do, right?
Yep.
So, Jeff's been on a tear lately. He's been on a roll lately. And why is that, Jeff? And it's not because I put my foot in your ass, but
I think it is.
Other than the fact that I did put my foot in your ass, you have done what? Why are you doing so much work right now?
Because I don't have distractions. I'm not stopping everything to go put out fires every day.
What's the biggest distraction in your life?
Me.
Right.
You know, so the discipline's everything.
And
you know,
on top of the discipline, what is the one thing that you're doing now that's different?
Building a system. I'm
Correct.
staying in rhythm.
Correct.
I'm you know, I have to admit, I was so embarrassed the first time you came out. You walked into my shop and you asked me, did you not
I think the word
know
shithole came out of my mouth.
Yeah, did you not know I was coming? Why does this place look like a shithole?
Well,
you couldn't walk from one side to the other, and it's not because there was work there.
Right.
It's because I'm like the Tasmanian devil, not doing anything.
Look, I'm not looking to lick the floor and eat off the floor, because every taxidermy shop is organized chaos. But if I walk into a taxidermy shop and I can't find a place for me to work, you're not working either. Okay? That's how I look at it. But I was really surprised. Jeff took me out to his shop this morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I looked at a couple birds. I said, when'd you do these? 2 weeks ago. When'd you do these? Last week. When'd you do these? So I counted them all up. There's 12 birds.
In 3 weeks.
Okay? In 3 weeks. He is starting the system. Okay? But how come you couldn't do 12 birds in 3 months prior to that?
Just no focus and dealing with all the crap and not sticking to my system and lack of discipline.
So a person has no business being in this industry, taking people's deposit, creating the active business if you have no intention to execute your system.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was in survival mode, taking care of mom and all the other you've told me, and like you've told me, there's always going to be something.
Oh yeah, you can always find something.
It's a choice.
You can always find a reason to not do something.
Right.
And that's what I was saying yesterday. You know, I look back at everything I've been through and I realized that I was in survival mode and not focused at all.
But
and now I've
survival mode every day. Every day
Well,
I
yeah,
wake up
but-
unemployed and broke, and I have to figure out what am I going to do today to walk my way to a paycheck. You know.
You know, this year I had some medical issues, and I'd go to the shows because it was therapy to me. You know, that was it. I'd sit in South Carolina. Was so nice. They put a table in front of me so I could judge, and they bring the people over so I could do the critique. I mean, it was wonderful. And I know a few friends of mine said, hey, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. I said, I'm not proving anything to anybody. I said, I'm doing this for me. Okay? Because one, I like the atmosphere. I like my friends. I like visiting with people. But I can't idle. I can't sit on a couch and just sit there with a remote and watch TV all day. for 40 years of my life, I have been geared toward getting up every day and going out and doing work. Okay, every plan that you have in your head to do it is only because you've done it. Right? That's it. There's no getting around it. But yet, like I said earlier in the beginning of the conversation, I'll go into shops, that I visited 2 years ago, and I'm like, why is the same stuff on you? Oh, well, this guy won't pick it up even if I finished it.
Yeah.
Well, he's never going to pick it up if it ain't finished.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I have that stuff hanging here from, we all have laggers,
Oh, yeah, sure.
But like Paul says, you just finish it and have a savings account on the
Yeah.
wall.
Right.
Savings
Well, there
account
it
on the
is.
wall.
It's interest.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is.
And eventually, sometimes for me, this has always worked this weird way. Like I've been, again, like on a dry spell or whatever. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, some guy will show up and pick up one of the ones,
like the Cape Buffalo that sat here for 20 years.
Right.
Or like a hogshead that I asked if I could hang it in my tattoo shop. You're like, yeah, cool. Dude showed up out of nowhere. What, 2 years after I had it? You're like, hey, time. Cool, got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Had to repossess it because the guy showed up from Jeff. But
Yeah.
But the last time I was out here, we're spending some time out in California. We're doing some stuff out here. And Chuck asked me just, hey, can you give me a hand with this? Great. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a big deal. It's what I do. And if it was some sort of laborious effort, or if I wasn't 100% sure what I was doing, and it wasn't a fish either, was it?
No.
But it was something within the taxidermist wheelhouse, some finish work, some epoxy work, some paint work, some whatever work. Clean the eyeballs, fix it up, make it look good. Get it out the door.
In this case, we had to match a photo.
That's right.
Of
That's
the
right.
thing, and it was
That's
particular, what I call a jackpot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, can you do your Rick Krane thing? And he did, and it didn't take him that long.
No.
And the guy was stunned. He said, this is exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the trade of our industry. That's kind of the misstep, I guess. When people say, what's the most important thing in taxidermy? And maybe it's my eyes, but it's my ability to interpret reference. It's not the magic airbrush. It's not the magic knife sharpener. It's not the magic sewing needle. It's your ability to look at information.
Yeah.
And that's comes with time. You don't know it on day one, and even after 10 years, man, you're still learning. You're still learning. You're still learning. I heard about a model one time. I was reading a book on business when I fly around. I read a lot, and it said the 51% rule. When you start a job, you don't do your job, you learn your job, right? And then after a while, you learn more about your job, and then you start focusing on your systems. Once you hit that 49% where you're still learning, but 51% of your time is, focused on the effort that you're going to make. Once you cross that line and you're no longer learning heavy, then you burn out. Then you don't want to do it anymore. Right? Or you find reasons not to do it anymore.
You lose your hunger.
You lose your hunger, the craving to do more, learn more, get better. When we all start, it's nerve-wracking to set an eye, right? Or it's nerve-wracking to hold the airbrush. I mean, I teach people how to paint for a living, and I watch them cramp up trying to, push that little plunger down to make the paint come out. And so I grab a plate usually, and I'll just sit there and spray, and I'll be looking. I won't even look at the plate. I'll talk to them, and they'll watch paint drip off, and I go, that is the worst thing that's ever going to happen. Okay, so let's establish that. Okay, and then we'll work backwards from there. We'll just go there. And I know that you're a great chef and a cook, and maybe you don't want to be called that, but you are, because I have eaten your food. When you first started doing that, just as a comparison to taxidermy, you certainly didn't know everything out of day one.
Oh, no. The way I always look at everything I do is if I don't learn something that day, I failed.
Okay. Fair enough.
You can never be caught resting on your laurels. You gotta be leaning forward, leaning into the punch, if you will.
I know your mentor, and you've had mentors, haven't you? Okay. And are they always the nicest people in the world telling you sugar and spice and everything nice? That's a no.
So
for those of us that can't see us right now, that was a hard no.
Well, I was trying to, I'm going to say this because it's true, right? He is so brutal that I was doing something wrong and he hit me in the head. And then I said, "You're not hitting this guy." And he looks at that guy and goes, "Well, he's done." You're not, you're
right. The progress has stopped in that chapter.
Yeah, you're. I expect, you know what I mean.
Sure.
That's what I would tell apprentices in the tattoo industry, because over 15 years, you teach a lot of people coming into the shop, and that's what you tell them. Hey, see how I don't ride their ass? They're already done. I'm riding your ass because you got potential.
And
how many years have you gotten on my ass about pulling my head out of my ass?
All of them.
Everybody. To this minute.
Yeah, I know.
To this minute. Although I had some false hope when Rick started doing the ducks, so I'll see what happens. But
I'm not stopping, bro.
Well, we'll see.
Look in my eyes.
Jeff called the other day and I said, "Stop talking." I said, "How many birds did you get done this week?" And he started talking again. I said, "You haven't answered my question."
And I got to go up and down and back and forth.
And I said, "Look, I'm not going to waste my time if you're not going to do anything." And you said something about being hard about it. I said, "I'll grind your bones to make my bread, but then I'm going to feed it to you and nourish you with it. Okay, so accept what's about to happen to you, but it's going to happen." Okay, and you have. And
at that point,
and he stayed up all night and mounted 2 more birds. So
you see, and that's the thing is that Mike, he'll always tell you the truth, and you might not, but that's the thing. And then, what's the really funny part is it helped me get like way less sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst that's going to happen is Mike's going to kick my ass.
Right.
And it hurts so bad, I don't think I'm going to do whatever it was.
Right.
But it kicked me in the shit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
kick in the teeth.
And we've lost that too because everybody gets a rivet, and then I don't know. And then I noticed that burnout too because these couple of guys I was talking to at the show. I said, "You ever thought about doing something else now?" Because
the hammer comes out.
Because well, Joe Kish, he was the one that and one of the reasons that I didn't. Well, there's a bunch of reasons that I kind of backed out, but one was like once you get to the blue ribbon, now you've done that, we'll do something else.
Right.
And the people don't, and they're going back and back and back and back and back forever, and they're not getting, so now you got enough wood to build a barn and enough ribbons to make curtains or whatever, but you haven't really, you know what I mean? You're,
sure.
So now I put a coyote on a rocket, and now I'm doing some other stupid thing just for fun. But
Sure.
do something else.
But you're challenging yourself, right? You're pushing yourself to make it interesting for you. Yeah.
You said, fun for, there's some stuff I want to do just for me.
Shits and drill for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this and see this and that, and,
I mean, anybody can call themselves a taxidermist if that's what they're going to do, I guess. And anybody can start in this industry or do whatever. And I can swing a hammer. I know how to read a tape measure. I can do stuff. But I got a great friend of mine. He's a great carpenter. And when he comes in and looks at my work and goes, "Why do you bother? Why do you do this?" And in another genre of my life, people think that, like, I know everything about anything, So why isn't it all transferable? Well, it is in a way, if you're willing to work hard enough at it and learn and take the criticism and the critique and, put your hand back in the fire once or twice. And I mean, that's it. I mean, someone that professionally cooks, have you ever burnt your hand?
Yeah.
Really? Seriously?
I lit my beard on fire.
You lit his beard on fire.
I was prospecting on the bread line. That's all they let me do is toast the bread and stuff.
So everybody has their own stuff, right? Everybody makes their own mistakes, right? Everybody has their own thing, no matter how long you've been doing something.
And you still do it.
You still do it.
Well,
well, that's funny that you said that. I was sitting there, and I said, "When's the last time I cut myself like this?" And I'm like, "Why did that happen?" Well, because I wasn't paying attention, probably.
It's like when I burnt the tip of my pinky off with freaking hot glue. I'm sitting there gluing something down. Went to set the damn gun down, wasn't paying attention. Thing flopped over, and I grabbed it and like peeled my skin off. You know?
Well, it's funny when you, like in my capacity when I'm teaching, it's like my eyes are hyper focused because I'm thinking liability all the time. Right? I'm thinking a different, line item on our yearly budget, right? We have to pay for commercial insurance and all this other stuff. And, that's the thing. But when you and I are working, we're in kind of like cruise control. We're going through the motions, about what we do. But they're skilled motions. They're experienced motions. But it still doesn't mean if you're not paying attention, it's going to be perfect, right? You still have to pay attention. You still have to go through. You got to make the effort. You can't dial it in taxidermy.
And then when I said that to him, but I didn't mean go do another job. I just meant do something else in taxidermy.
Different within the realm of taxidermy.
Together an armature. Well, how do you do that? Well,
learn how to carve or paint a rock or do something.
And then now I found out you don't even have to be a master to enter the master. So that was weird because they go, well, you just say now you are because you say you are.
Sure. Well, the first show I ever competed at, I had gone to several shows with Richard Krane for a few years before. So in 82, I guess it was 82, I went to the Connecticut show. And a gentleman, Peter Wilson, was judging, and Peter, worked at the Peabody Museum, which is Yale University's Natural History Museum. And so here's me, Johnny Come Lately, right? I'm just some guy there to win a ribbon, for the prize hog at the 4-H fair. No disrespect to the prize hog people, right? But the reality is, what am I doing, right? I'm sitting here thinking about it. And go to a show because that's what I've seen other people do. And I figured, well, I know a bunch of stuff about fish, and I know a bunch of stuff. And so when I got there, the first thing they said, are you an amateur or professional? Because they didn't have masters then, right? It was just amateur and professional. They used to line everybody's stuff up. And I said, well, they said, do you do it for a living? I said, no. And they said, okay, amateur. Bang, there it is. So got that out of the way. And then the deal is that after the judges were done and you saw a seminar or two, and the next day came around, you had to ask for a critique. That's what you had to do. And I said, hey, Mr. Wilson, I'm Ricky Krane, and, can I get my critique? And he said, young man, that is the worst fish I have ever seen in a taxidermy competition. I got a third, mind you, okay? He says, clearly you have no ability. Clearly this is overwhelming to you. He said, what do you do? And I was frozen in time. I couldn't even move. I don't even know if I was breathing at the moment. And I remember Richard saying to me, Richard Krane, you got to ask for your critique. So I said, can I have my critique? He says, what do you think I'm giving you? He said, why don't you learn how to set your eyes so I know it's not a squirrel or a gopher or something? Then he walked away. And I went outside and I threw up in the parking lot. True story. And I thought to myself, wow, geez, how can I go back up to the hatchery? And because at the time I was working for the state, and I said, how can I tell these guys I only took a third? What I didn't know at the time, they didn't have to give out a first place ribbon, but they had to give out the second and the third. And I was one of two people in the amateur division. So I basically got a booby prize. That's what I got, right? So, I don't know, it was a month or 2 months later, New York, I bring different fish, because back then you couldn't bring the same piece to 800 shows. You had to do different stuff, where the guys that did this for a living, they got on you. Big time. What, you only know how to do one thing? Is that all you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, a very, very, very nice gentleman I became friends with later, Ron Reynolds from Canada. He gave me another third place. But his critique was really nice. He says, oh, nice job, kid. Keep up the good work. And I went, well, that was great. That was awesome. But Peter Wilson was there doing a seminar. And I figured, well, this is my only chance to see if I've done any better, because he's the only one that's ever seen my work. I said, Mr. Wilson, do you remember me? And he said, I have no idea who you are. And I said, well, I was at Connecticut. And I said, can you look at my work? And you're the only one that's ever seen my work. And he looked at it and he said, young man, this is the worst fish I have ever seen at a taxidermy competition. Clearly, you have no ability. It was like hitting play on a tape recorder, Tape recorder, right? See, now I'm showing my age, right? I was sitting there thinking to myself, all the aspirations I ever had in my life, from a child, right? I wanted to be a taxidermist. A fish, the sunapee trout, had gone extinct, and I couldn't see it anywhere, so I wanted to learn how to mount these things, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's over for me. It's done. It's over. right? I can't do this. I have no ability. I have no talent. It's overwhelming. And when he was walking away, he turned around and he looked back and he says, "Nice eye set, though." Okay. And then it's like I got goosebumps now. It's like the heavens opened. And it was like, oh, I went to college. I remember this. This is how they do you, right? Because who were we, right? Johnny come lately. Some professional taxidermists that worked in a museum that had to clean toilets, build boxes, go get coffee, do whatever they were told to do just to get one little grain of information from the master taxidermist.
Yeah.
Now they're in that position. They're asked and paid probably nothing back then, probably did it to volunteer, to give out ribbons to people like me, right? That was their gig, right? So why would they be nice to you? So I become a judge in '89, and I think Tony Gilliard was president of the NTA in '92, '93. He sent out videos to us on how to be kinder, nicer judges. Instead of saying this, say that. Instead of saying this, say that. And I thought to myself, well, nobody said any nice thing to me, for the first, 8 years. But you know something, at the end of the day, if you want this to be your thing, then it doesn't matter what anybody says to you. You're just going to keep working at it. You're going to have that drive. You're going to have that fire in your belly to keep doing it. And even at this point now, I know people find this amazing. Man, every single day I'm trying to learn something. And Joe Meter, and we all kind of know Joe in our industry, and Joe is a mentor to me as well. And I just saw Joe earlier at the Nationals this year. He came to see me when I wasn't feeling too good and came to look at the show, and we were talking, and I reminded him of something he said to me. I was talking to a competitor one day, and he was just overhearing me. He was listening to what I was saying. And I said to the person, when a person goes to the World Show, they're not there to learn. They're there to win. Okay, it's not about learning anymore. They're there to win. And Joe said, if I can go to a show like that, and if I can walk out of there with one thing more than I knew, he said, it's better than the ribbon. Okay? That's why he's a winner, right? Because it's not the one goal, it's the big picture, right? That's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember my first competition. I was nervous as shit because I never competed and I didn't want to. Chuck said, no, you're going to learn and you're going to get better. So you're going to do it. And I'm, all right. And then he calls me, he goes, Rick Krane's going to be your judge. And I absolutely fucking fell apart. Just the stress was too much to ignore. And, I gave it my best shot, but I learned a lot. And I got to meet you for the first time.
Yeah.
So.
Look at you now.
That's ugly.
My
Well, your buddy that got you started, the first thing he said when he called me is he said, so how's your backlog or something? And I'm like, what? He goes, well, how far behind are you? And I'm like, I don't understand the question. What do you mean? He goes, well, are you? I go, oh, no, I'm done or so. I don't think he honest to God, I don't think he believed me. But I was,
it's a foreign concept.
Yeah, I said, we don't get lapped. I mean, that's like our rule.
Sure. But you teach your customers that when they bring you work, whatever the price is, look, what's the most valuable commodity in the world? What is it? It's time, right? It's the most valuable thing in the world. What would you give to have it back or to be with a loved one for 5 more minutes or whatever the deal is? These folks that won the lottery and they caught a 10-pound largemouth, or they won the lottery and with all their excellent skills shot the biggest sheep they've ever shot in their life or the biggest mountain lion they've ever shot in their life. They want that back as fast as they can, right? And they want it so they can talk to their friends about it and show it to other people. So we do have value, right? We bring some kind of value to the table. But if you're not a professional business like your shop here is, and if you're not turning your work out, you're not fulfilling that piece of what their experience is, and you won't stay in business very long. I don't think.
You've both told me that you can be a great taxidermist, but if you don't know shit about business, you're going to be out of a job.
And if you don't produce, I mean, the bottom line is they don't care if you can see the brains through the nose. They want it back. They don't care if it's got a nictating membrane or a cornical gland or or the best anus like Sonny got the award for. So they just want their stuff back. But anyway, I think we're about time to wrap it up. I'm hungry.
I think there's so much really cool information that just got shared here.
Oh, no, for sure. I
In
guess
a short period of time. This was exciting for me.
Yeah.
Holy
We're
smart.
grateful that you came up and did one with us again. You know,
yeah, we'll have to leave it as a to be continued.
Yeah,
To be continued.
Absolutely.
You know,
100%.
well,
All right. So, thanks
what an
everybody.
episode, huh?
Yeah, great episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to find us everywhere you look for podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, and maybe others coming. We'll see. Look for us on social media at Butcher Shop Taxidermy, at Ojai_Valley_Taxidermy. I did it right this time, right?
That's right. And then Rick, tell us about where they can find you.
Usually somewhere in an airport.
This guy.
So Anglers Artistry and the Academy of Wildlife Art, we're now a licensed, accredited, full-fledged school. We're going to do some different things, do some lecture models.
Awesome.
But yeah, good times.
Okay, so they can find you
Sure.
I tag you on that Insta thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, anglersartistry.com and go
And
from
then
there.
Jeff, you can find it the Duck Club.
No, actually, I haven't been hunting, Chuck. I've been in the fucking shop. You can find me in the shop.
Allegedly working, or just look for a guy with a boot stuck up his ass. That'd be Jeff.
Absolutely.
I fart athlete's foot.
Fin and feather taxidermy.
I just want to verify
Yeah,
that's why Chuck doesn't wear shoes, right? Is that
He's
the real
lost
reason
so many, he
that?
doesn't want to buy
Okay, all
anymore.
right.
I ran out.
You can find me at Duck_Vader on Instagram.
That's what it is, yeah.
You can search me on Facebook under Jeff Davis in Port Hueneme. Or, like Chuck said, you can find me allegedly working.
Boys, thanks so much.
Thank
I
you.
really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
It's our pleasure, man.
What an amazing.
We'll
amazing
see after
All right.
Christmas or something, or when I don't know when this airs, next Tuesday or.
Yep. I'll edit this Monday. It'll go out Monday night or Tuesday at midnight, I guess.
All right.
Wow, awesome.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks
We're gonna
everybody.
go out patty milk.
Yeah, let's
man.
go get
Oh, yeah.
onion ring. Thanks everybody. Have a
Run
good
down,
one.
get you some.
No, don't do that.
Oh, no. Okay.